Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. Earlier today, the Atlanta Federal Reserve once again adjusted its GDP estimates for Q1 down. Today, it stands at negative 3.7% for the first quarter. For those keeping track, 8 weeks ago, the same Atlanta Fed was predicting that GDP for quarter one, if Trump just did nothing, would be 3.9% growth. 4 weeks ago, it was 2.3% growth. Last week, negative 2.8%. Today, it stands at negative 3.7%. Michael Cohen, here is how Fox is trying to message this, that what the Trump regime needs to say to the American people is that we're at war. And that in wars, you have to make sacrifice because this is a war and an invasion. Listen to Harris Faulkner in her own words. Let's play it.
And those 401k people who were depending, those retirees, all of that, just talking plain speak with them. Look, when this nation used to go to war, people in this country would support the war effort with their materials at home and making things for weaponry and all of that. We got to do 100% buy-in over this bumpy period. Just communicate.
Kaylee.
I want to show you this yesterday.
Here's the problem, Ben. Before we jump on, here's the problem. It's self-inflicted. That's the problem here. Had he done, can you read those numbers again? Had this jerk-off done nothing, had nobody listened to
3.9% growth. He could have stayed in Mar-a-Lago, taken credit for former President Biden's economy. It would have been 3.9% growth. Now we're negative 3.7%. We're in a contraction mode. So an 8-point swing in the negative direction. Cohen, let me show you this, though, because he was asked in the Oval Office yesterday in this bizarre press conference, are you going to move to a universal tariff or a different individual tariff rate on different countries? So, like, what's the plan, right? Like, what are we doing here? That's the most basic thing, right, Cohen? What are we doing? Let's take a look at what he says. Let's play it.
Are you going to move ahead with a universal tariff or different individual tariff rates on a whole variety of different
Well, you're going to see in 2 days. Which is maybe tomorrow night or probably Wednesday, you're going to see. And they're reciprocal. So whatever they charge us, we charge them, but we're being nicer than they were.
He goes, you're going to see in 2 days. I'm not going to tell you. So with a business community that needs certainty and stability, that's his response. And then Cohen, he goes into this meandering diatribe about the word kind and how someone called him kind. And it's an interesting word. He never really heard it before. Here, play this clip.
Mr. President, you met with the chairman.
Somebody said that about me the other day. He said, who doesn't know me very well, they said, you're such a kind person. And I said, say that again. They said, you're a kind person. I said, I've never heard that before. It was a weird statement. I was kind.
Who said that?
I've heard of words that, I don't know, I better not tell you. You know, I've been called a lot of things, but it's sort of a different kind of a word. It's like an old-fashioned word, isn't it?
Mr. President, you met with...
You know what I love, Ben?
What?
At least he was honest at one thing, that the person that said he was kind doesn't know him very well. I mean, that to me, I thought was the funny. It's almost like, it's like you're dissing yourself before you even go into this diatribe of stupidity. I mean, that's the whole thing. You know, think about this entire press conference. It's not just the fact that he has a concept of a plan, because he has no plan. It's not only is it that it's a concept, but it is so significant where they have to go with this plan. Not all tariffs are uniform. And that's the whole thing. It's kind of, think of it like the IRS, right? The tax code, which is like 18,000 plus pages. Every single element is not going to be taxed at the same amount. So there are, from what I understand, more than 20,000 different industries that all have varying different degrees of taxation as it relates to tariffs. But nobody wants to talk about that. You see, it's easy to just say, oh, I'm going to tax Canada at 25% on top of the 25%. That's not necessarily how it's going to work, right? And I don't understand why the folks that are around him, specifically our Secretary of Commerce, has not explained to him that, one, he doesn't understand the concept of stagflation, and worse than that, he doesn't understand the concept of a tariff and who will ultimately bear the brunt of paying for it. More and more Americans right now are unhappy. I think it was 58%, according to a Fox News poll. It was either 56 or 58% of all Americans are unhappy with the way that they're handling this and the economy. And again, that's coming from Fox News.
While at that bizarre press conference, or whatever you want to call it as well, you have Kid Rock standing in a jumpsuit and a fedora next to Donald Trump, where you would normally have like a military general or somebody like that. Jeremy, do we just have the photo of Kid Rock standing next to Donald Trump so people can see this image? We'll pull it up. It's definitely in our assets for today. But let me share with you, Cohen, in the meantime, what Donald Trump said when he was asked about stagflation, because he was asked, GDP contraction, and we're seeing prices rising. When those two things happen, that's called stagflation. And here's his answer when he's asked about stagflation. Let's play it.
Now, is that something that you're worried about, given the impact of your efforts to readjust the economy?
I haven't heard that term in years. No, I don't know anything about it. This country is going to be more successful than it ever was. It's going to boom. We're going to have boom down USA. We're going to boom.
And Cohen, there's a lot within that small clip, though, I think describes the overall problem of media literacy, of everything that brought us Trump.
Yeah, let me ask you this question. Would you not agree? Two things. First, that Kid Rock in that ridiculous outfit looked like the clown at the circus that gets shot out of a cannon. That's the first thing that I thought of, that, this is a guy that's going to be shot out of a cannon across the Oval Office, bounce off of the George Washington painting, right? Land on his head, bounce up, and turn around and scream, fight, fight, fight. I don't know why I had that sort of wacky vision, but this has got to be the stupidest outfit. But here's the part that offends me. What offends me the most about that photo, about the Republicans, about even the Democrats who are staying silent, where is the outrage over Kid Rock's outfit when, remember how they attacked President Zelensky for not wearing a suit when he went to visit the president in the Oval Office? What is Kid Rock even doing there? All I know is that Trump forgot to sign an executive order. I think it was Peter Doocy from Fox that said, Mr. Trump, aren't you going to at least sign the executive order, which is why we're all here? He signs it, and then he has Kid Rock holding it up. And I didn't get a chance to even hear what it was about. It was something weird and so on. You know what I'm talking about?
It was something about ticket prices, and
That's it, ticket scalpers.
And it wasn't really explained in any significant detail. And also, these executive orders, just so everybody knows, they don't have the force of law. They are a directive to an agency, by the way, which most of them he's gutting, to do or not to do things based on the existing law. Like, Congress still has to pass the law. So when he says, I'm signing an executive order to abolish the Department of Education, the executive order simply is a directive to the Secretary of Education to do something. However, where Congress appropriates money for something like the Department of Education, you can't go against what Congress passed as the law and that was signed into law. So that's why you have all of these lawsuits, because he's trying to treat executive orders like a dictator. Like the point I want to make, Cohen, though, before moving on, though, is about that clip. Play the stagflation clip one more time. But first, Jeremy, show the clip of Kid Rock. And this to me sums up everything Cohen, about where we are today as a nation and how we got here. So just flash the image right now, Jeremy, of Kid Rock and Donald Trump in the White House, in the Oval Office, in the People's House right there. Okay. Now, Trump's asked a basic question about stagflation. Now, I know the word stagflation is big, right? I guess it's a little complicated. You have to have some economic literacy. But Trump, in demolishing the Department of Education and saying, I love the uneducated, he knows, stagflation, why even talk about it? He knows, though, because he's a marketer, that you just say the word boom. It's going to be a boom. I'm going to boom it. Boom,
it's
boom,
gonna
boom.
Be beautiful. It's going
to
be
a
great.
big boom. You need a boom. But the thing is, and what people need to recognize in messaging is that if you want to describe what's taking place, we have to also message it to explain bust, destruction, say bye-bye to your money, bye-bye money, bye-bye. It sucks that we have to talk like that, but the reality is that we have to make these points clear about what's happening. Trump wants to destroy your life. Trump hates America. Howard Lutnick mocks you. They want to get rid of Social Security. They're shutting it down. They hate you. They like billionaires. You have to talk like that because you need messages that are direct. Just play the clip one more time of him saying the boom, boom, stagflation. Stagflation, the president of the freaking United States should be addressing what this is. That this is stag. You should know what it is. And we should not, though, normalize as a society.
But that's the problem with the media, too. They give him this unfettered attention on stupidity. He's doing an executive order. Ben, I assure you this network, Midas Touch Network, would not be in the Oval Office, even if invited, within which to watch the signing of an executive order that makes scalping concert tickets, or any tickets for that matter, illegal. I want people to understand. You brought up the best point so far. You have issues with Social Security. You have issues with the VA. You have issues with the Department of Education. You have no idea what's going on in terms of unemployment. And you have all of this massive stuff that's going on right now. But, hold on. I have to write an executive order that makes it illegal to sell concert tickets. This is so important. It's so important for each and our daily basis, right? With the wars still going on, with the fighting going on, with him pulling out, wanting to become an isolationist country. The best that they can do is they show up there in full gear with all of the equipment, the microphones, the cameras, and so on, to show the signing of an executive order that, in all fairness, that paper, somebody should wipe their ass with it.
Let me show you the clip again, just so you see. This is one of the ways he won the election, because he spoke boom, it's a boom, 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 boom. Now people are realizing, but in people's busy lives where they take for granted that their Social Security check's going to arrive, that Medicaid's going to be there, that infrastructure projects happen, that America's always going to have this position in the world. People take it for granted. So as between somebody like Vice President Kamala Harris, who was speaking in complete thoughts and giving, but also she did not say, I'm going to make you so rich, you're going to be the richest. I mean, she was talking about, here's my tax credit plan. We're going to make sure that, if you are in a certain income bracket, then we are going to make sure you get a deduction on your taxes. When you get a home, you can write it. And people are like, on the other hand, Donald Trump saying, you're going to be rich. I'm going to make you the richest. No tax on this, no taxes at all. And you see, it's a Ponzi scheme rug pull presidency, because now they move on to Doge checks, Doge rebates. When we find all of these things, we're going to give you checks and we're going to make you rich. Just you wait. Oh, and by the way, we're going to be searching in Fort Knox for some gold. And imagine if we find gold, how rich you're going to be. We're going to make you rich. And that's been his shtick his entire life. And when the shtick hits reality, that's when you go bankrupt, Donald, because the shtick meets reality, and reality's like, whoa, all of the things that you've been saying are not real. So what are you going to do about it? Now, most business people would adjust, and you would go, let me try to change. Let me concede. Let me do a change in leadership. Maybe I should do this. Maybe it's not a great idea that my top DOD, Department of Defense officials and national security advisors are leaking classified information on, their signal chats or whatever. Let's maybe address, but not him. He doubles, triples, quadruples down on the issues and then makes it even worse. Let me show you the clip, though, again, of him going, boom, it's going to be boom. Here, play that clip.
Now, is that something that you're worried about, given the impact of your efforts to readjust the economy?
I haven't heard that term in years. No, I don't know anything about it. This country is going to be more successful than it ever was. It's going to boom. We're going to have boom down USA. We're going to boom.
And we're not going to boom. I saw someone in the comments say, I'm feeling really down today. Well, let me show you this.
By the way, he wants you to feel.
He wants you to feel.
Wants you to feel that. I actually did a Substack on it where I call it Autocracy by Exhaustion. Let me be very clear. This is what they're doing. They're wearing you down with stupidity. And as all of this goes on, and every day you wake up and you're wondering, what are those little thumbkins of his going to end up texting out at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning that's going to control the news cycle? And all of a sudden you're saying, I've had enough. I need to leave. I need to get out of here. I just need to stick my head in the sand. And God willing, when I pick my head up out of the sand, all this bullshit is going to be over. It's not, because the whole goal is to get you exhausted, to make you want to give up. And when you do that, he wins and we lose.
Let me share with you Senator Cory Booker, who's been on the Senate floor now for 20 plus hours, bringing attention to it's not technically a filibuster. It is a kind of speak-a-thon where he's there speaking about all of the issues with the Trump regime, bringing attention to it, fighting. And so for all the people who say, yeah, I'm feeling down, this is the type of fighting that we need. And yeah, you may say, well, what did that do? What did it do? He's just on the Senate floor. Sometimes you just need to get out there and speak and fight and bring attention to these issues. What did he do? He's bringing, and you all know what he did, he's bringing attention to Congress right now and what they're doing and what they're not doing. And what they're doing is destroying the American dream, destroying the lives of Americans. They're destroying Medicaid. They are toying with people's lives, cruelly engaged in a hostile takeover of our federal government, defaming the federal workers who they fire and say it's for performance reasons when it's not. Let me show you Senator Booker moments ago, 20 hours plus in. I think he's going to try to set the record, which is like 24 or so hours of speaking on the floor. And he may even go beyond that. But here he was moments ago.
Nay, behold, Lord, here I am. And so I confess that I have been imperfect. I confess that I've been inadequate to the moment. I confess that the Democratic Party has made terrible mistakes, that have given lane to this demagogue. I confess we all must look in the mirror and say, we will do better. And it's not just defining ourselves what we're against. We, the next generation, as the baby boomers are leaving the stage, the last baby boomer president, we have to say that we're going to redeem the dream. We're going to dream America anew. We're going to start talking about bold things that don't divide people, that unite people. Bold things that excite the moral imagination of a country to do better, to go higher, that call us together. This is the time where new leaders in our country must emerge. I'm not talking about senators. I'm talking about citizens.
He's 20 hours in there.
By the way, he could do another 60 hours with all the shit that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And by the way, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. Not only do we need our citizens in order to get smarter, to get real, We really need to stop with the octogenarian party, which is, there's so many members of the House and the Senate. It's time for them to go. Their ideas, they don't have, for example, the ability, like Cory Booker, to stand up for 20 hours and to speak. Now, you're right, Ben. People may be turning around saying, it's not going to really do shit. So he's just wasting his time, that he's just grandstanding. No, he's not. He's bringing awareness to a problem. And if you don't bring awareness to the problem, you're not thinking about the problem. What you're thinking about is the chaos that Donald Trump is sowing day in and day out, deflecting from the issues that we talk about every single time that we're together here on the Beatdown. Instead of talking about the issues of our VA, instead of talking about our children, instead of talking about women's reproductive health rights, and the 1,000 other things that this guy has absolutely stuck his hands into and destroyed, he's deflecting and talking about concert tickets.
For all of our Canadian supporters, the Maple Midas, we have for the members, we have the elbows up emoji. Everybody see those elbow up emojis? Throw your elbows up emojis in the chat if you got them. And let me just share this clip with you, and then we'll talk about it after. This is Donald Trump on Air Force One, once again attacking Canada, attacking their sovereignty. At the same time, he says, we need Canada because of their resources, so he wants to conquer it. He then says, we don't need anything from them. We don't need their lumber. They have no use to us. And so it's just like triply offensive. And the people in Canada don't just view this as a trade war. Rightfully, they view it as a real war, that Trump has declared war on Canada. He wants their territory. He's trying to break the country, the great country of Canada. And they're standing up. The boycott right now of all things American, it's at like 70, 80% drop in tourism. In terms of boycotting American goods around that as well. That's going to show up in those GDP reports as well. Let me play this clip of him talking about Canada on Air Force One.
We have our own lumber. We have our own energy. We don't need energy from Canada. We don't need lumber from Canada. We don't need anything from Canada. We don't need cars from Canada, as an example. So we are I think we're going to have, I call it the golden age of America. I believe this will be the golden age of America. Thank you very much, everybody.
Is this your first foreign trip? Have you decided on your first foreign trip?
I want to talk about that clip. He does the same thing he did in the Stagflation clip. Says a bunch of nonsense, defames our ally, and then goes golden age, boom, 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 golden age, gold. It's the same.
Ben, can I let me jump in here for a second? First of all, there's a couple of things that I know that our political beatdown, our brigaders were saying the same thing that I was. What the hell was Lutnick doing hanging over his shoulder, his right shoulder? What, didn't you find that odd and weird? On top of that, I have to ask you this. So hypothetically, we stop taking soft lumber, right? I mean, what Trump doesn't understand, or Lutnick doesn't understand about these tariffs, just use soft lumber as the example. So if you don't have the wood, you know who suffers? The construction industry, right? So you're not building houses, which thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of construction workers are now out of a job. But not only are they out of a job, but how about the towns don't collect real estate tax because the property's not built yet and there's no lot and block number that's approved yet? I mean, this whole thing is nuts. What they're failing to fully understand is that there's a trickle-down economic scenario here that we haven't even begun to feel yet. Yeah, we're feeling it if you have money in the stock market and so on. No, I'm talking about when you go to the store and you want to buy a piece of wood because you need to build something. It's now not $10 a piece, it's $25. All right, if you're buying one piece of wood, you could suck it up. I get it. But what if you're building a foundation? What if you're building and you're what do you call it? You're pitching a house, right? I mean, what about any of that? What about the fact that we in this country, that we don't have enough mills in order to make the wood that we're getting from Canada, which, by the way, we get it cheaper than what we can ultimately manufacture it ourselves for here in America, because we have things like, minimum wage. We have things like Social Security. We have things like health coverage, and we have unions and so on. So yeah, we pay more per goods, and Americans like cheap products. That's why 80% of all of the goods that are consumed here in America come from somewhere else.
Michael Cohen, I want to chat about some of the additional ramifications we're seeing as a result of what Trump's referring to as Liberation Day tomorrow. That's what he, by the way, he's gone awfully, awfully silent today. And there's clearly a lot going on behind the scenes now as they figure out what the hell are they going to do. I mean, Trump said he's going to tariff every country, and it's going to cause massive, massive economic destruction. And it's just, if you're going to make just even think about it, like, if you're going to make an announcement like that, you then go silent the day before. You're speaking every second. You speak too much. I don't want to hear from you. But the day before you're about to drop an economic atomic bomb, that's when you go to your bunker, because he's a freaking loser. That's why. That's how losers, it's a loser mentality. Braggadocious, bullying people who are weaker than you. Then when you're confronted with real shit, when things really gotta happen, you're nowhere to be found. People around you are freaking out. It's why he's been a bad business person. It's why he's an awful leader. It's why he should be nowhere near proximity to power. And shame on these Republican fascist clowns. No offense to clowns, because it's a real profession. The Republican fascist clowns for enabling this. Never do I have to wonder how it happened in Germany. Never do I have to wonder how it happened in Italy during the time. Never do I have to wonder how historically these things happen. I know that there are weak human beings who bow to fascism and cause so much destruction, normalizing evil. We're going to stand up for you every day on Political Beatdown and the Midas Touch Network. I want to remind everybody, Michael Cohen's YouTube channel, at The Michael Cohen Show. Make sure you check that out, at The Michael Cohen Show. Also, make sure you check out the Mea Culpa podcast, the blue one, wherever you get your audio. Search Mea Culpa. We've got a quick break. We'll be right back with more after this quick message.
It's funny how someone who doesn't even have a cat is doing an ad for a cat company. A short time ago, I received this massive box filled with food and a bunch of toys. So what did I do? I took it over to my neighbor, who I know has a cat. And she told me that she heard of this company and was eager to try it out on her cat, Marlo. Now, since then, it's nothing but Smalls for Marlo. So if you have a cat, if you love your cat, you should check out our next sponsor, Smalls. And as a listener of this show, if you have a cat, go now to get 50% off your first order plus free shipping. So head to smalls.com and use our promo code BEAT. Smalls cat food. It's protein-packed recipes made with preservative-free ingredients that you'd find in your refrigerator, and it's delivered right to your door. That's why Cats.com named Smalls their best overall cat food. And I can attest to something here, that Marlo prefers Smalls way more than his previous cat food. I mean, my neighbor told me that they did a taste test. They put two bowls side by side, and Marlo immediately went to Smalls and ignored the other. Still not a believer in Smalls? Let me tell you, New York Magazine called Smalls, and I quote, the best cat food according to veterinarians. And BuzzFeed, they said, and I quote, my cats went completely ballistic for this stuff, just like my neighbor. Plus, my neighbor also said that her cat's breath is much better, and so is his fur. I mean, seriously, who wants a cat with halitosis? I mean, who wants to be embarrassed in the park or when Marlo has a play date? Plus, Smalls also has a bunch of amazing treats and snacks that you could add to your order. So after switching to Smalls, get a load of this. 88% of cat owners reported overall health improvements. I mean, that's a real big deal. And have a particularly picky cat? Smalls has a sampler so that your cat can try out everything Small has to offer. And the team at Smalls, they're so confident that your cat will love their product that you can try it risk-free. That means that they'll refund you if your cat won't eat their food. So what are you waiting for? Give your cat the food that they deserve. Head to smalls.com and use promo code BEAT at checkout for 50% off your first order, plus free shipping. I mean, that's the best offer you'll find, but you have to use my code BEAT for 50% off your first order. One last time, that's promo code BEAT for 50% off your first order, plus free shipping. Go now.
We're back. It's Political Beatdown. Shout out to our sponsors. Discount codes in the description below. My dogs. Those are my dogs. It's for cats, guys. It's for cats.
Right. You know, it's very funny because if you think about, Ben, when you and I first decided to start the show, Political Beatdown, that's really where we're at right now. We're in a beatdown. We are in a fight. And you know, I've seen so many of the comments that are coming in from our brigaders. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. No, you don't have the right now to be exhausted and tired. Think about Cory Booker standing there for 20 hours. Think about him just rambling on. Do you remember, who was it? Ted Cruz at one point in time tried to do the same thing. He ran out of things to say, so he started reading Green Eggs and Ham. Imagine just how tired Cory Booker must be, how much more tired he's going to be tomorrow after pulling this all-nighter. If we give up, if we allow him and this administration to make us exhausted, to make us not want to fight, we're done. We're done. We lose, he wins. America loses, democracy loses, autocracy wins. So
Cohen, I want to talk to you.
The
sorry.
next time that you start feeling like you want to, just take a step back and recharge yourself, just turn around. And remember the days like when you were pulling all-nighters for an exam? It's the same thing. And Ben and I, will be here with you every single step of the way. Midas Touch Network will be with you every single step of the way. And you know how I know that? Because it's growing. It's growing by leaps and bounds over mainstream, lamestream television. It's growing faster than any other program. Why? Because we're here. We're here together in order to punch back.
Couldn't agree more with you. I want to talk about this because you know these players. So I got to get your insight into it when I see the headlines. For example, the headline about Howard Lutnick within the Trump regime being the most kind of despised and hated person, right? This was a guy, by the way, he was the head of a billionaire guy, head of Cantor Fitzgerald. By the way, right after 9/11, I mean, he lost tragically, like almost more than half the entire workforce died in the World Trade Center. I remember reading about Howard Lutnick's story after 9/11, him rebuilding, that business. That's just some context so people may remember, oh, that was Howard Lutnick. That was Howard Lutnick. Kind of you fast forward to where we are now. He became a full-on Trumpy guy over the past, kind of over the past few years as well. He wasn't always that Trumpy. I think he was giving money to Democrats, 6-7 years ago also, from what I understand. And he wanted to be Commerce Secretary, went all in on Trump, especially during the latest run. He's been the main guy out there who's been saying, look, the tariffs are the way to go. Liberation Day. If you complain about not getting your Social Security check, you're probably a criminal. You're probably a fraud, he says, because he goes, my mother-in-law, who's 94, she would never complain. And so therefore, if you're a complainer, he goes, that's how I know that. He does it in a creepy way too, that you're the one committing fraud. I played that video so much, I don't need to replay it. But what do you think's going on? I mean, clearly right now, particularly Cohen, stuff is going on behind the scenes as we speak, because he's been relatively silent. He made some weird post moments ago about defunding NPR and PBS or something, just whining like that's really what you're thinking of right now. Like while we've been on the show, that's what he's posting. Republicans defund PBS and NPR. But what's going on, Cohen, right now? What do you think is happening behind the scenes?
The expression, Ben, history repeats itself. I know Howard for 24 years. You're 100% correct. Howard was not a Trumper. Now, he obviously, we all knew each other, right? I mean, my daughter and his son were in nursery school together, 25 years ago. That's how long I know Howard. His wife is from my hometown. I mean, Howard was not a Trumpy Trumper like he is now, sort of leering over his shoulder, trying to be seen, so what? So that the Upper East Side here in Manhattan turns out and says, oh, there's Howard. Who gives a shit? The worst thing you could do is hang out over Trump's shoulder. Don't think for a second that he hasn't seen that. But that's not really the big problem that's here. Howard is abrasive, and he's very similar to like what's going on, or what went on, I should say, with Reince Priebus. Reince Priebus, you may remember, was the chief of staff. He put a whole group of his people in there thinking that he was going to sort of be like the Elon Musk, that he was going to be a puppet president of some sort. It didn't work out for him. He was so disliked by even people that he brought in. People didn't call him by his name, Reince Priebus. They used to call him Rancid Penis, and they didn't do it behind his back. They would do it to his face. They would do it in front of the president. And ultimately, he just fucked up. And he fucked up again, and then again. And then Trump lost his patience, because Trump has no patience for any of this. And ultimately, what happened? I think he was like the second to go. Boom, that's it, you're gone. When you have this many people going against you, as Lutnick does, it is inevitable that it is a short-lived career. Because Trump, every time somebody comes in and they're whispering into his ear, see, these enablers, just like the enablers when I was around, the last person in Trump's ear controls the brain. If he keeps hearing over and over and over, I can't work with Howard. Howard's insane. I can't do this. What's he hanging out over your shoulder for? Why is he doing this? Why is he getting ahead of you on the tariffs things? Thanks to him, you now look stupid, yada, yada, yada. Trump is like, you know what? Fuck it. He'll just get rid of him, and he'll bring in a new Secretary of Commerce. That's the issue here, and that's what's going to happen. But Howard is not alone in this sort of group of castaways. There's a whole group of people, including Mike Waltz, that will ultimately get thrown out, because Trump needs to blame someone. And if it's not Lutnick that he's going to blame for tariffs, it'll be Ben Meiselas. Somehow it'll be Michael Cohen's fault. It is always somebody else's fault, never Donald's. Always somebody else's, and somebody else has to always take the fall. They
called Reince Priebus in the White House Rancid Penis. I think they call Howard Lutnick Howard Nutlick.
Listen, that's probably a name that I've heard used many, many times in the past, even by people that he's friendly with here in this city.
You've heard people refer to him as Howard Nutlick.
Nutlick, yeah.
Let's move on to the next the next topic. Let's show you what else Trump's been posting. He posted this one too. He's reposting this. Meet the Canadians over the moon at the prospect of joining the U.S. So again, he keeps reposting this. that they want to take over Canada. Every time we do a story or we talk about Trump wanting to take over Canada, we should always do the elbows up emojis from everybody. Just throw the emojis up every time you see this. So they found two people, like these two people right here. And then if you zoom in, do you see that it says, tell Danielle, let's join the USA. You see that right there? So that's referring to the conservative premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith, who was already busted in like an election interference scheme with the leader of the Conservative Party in Canada, Pierre Poilievre, to try to have Donald Trump help Pierre Poilievre win the upcoming snap elections on April 28th. So by Donald Trump posting this photo with Danielle Smith right there, and Canadians seeing that, even in Donald Trump's own mind, he doesn't even realize the damage that he's doing because he's an idiot.
Right. So, Ben, here's another part of the Trump problem. What he does is he takes the piece of sand and he makes that into the entire beach. You've got two assholes that are willing to put their face up onto something. Hey, we're Canadian and we want to be part of the US. Trump is trying to make it seem that all Canadians want to be part of the United States. And I want to be clear, not just to our Canadian supporters here, right? The Maple Mighty. Half my family lives in Toronto. My first cousins live in Toronto. My father went to University of Toronto. He grew up in Toronto. They do not want to be American. They're very happy being Canadian. They were very happy having the relationship with America that they did, or being our closest ally, being our cousins, right? Connected by the border, by the northern border. But instead, Trump wants to fool you. He thinks the whole country are imbeciles, that you take two jerk-offs, you put them onto a post, and therefore, boop, that's it. Bing, 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 bing. All of a sudden, every Canadian wants to be American. It's just not true.
You see the ripple effect, though, across the world. I mean, you just think about what's going on. Like, take Canada. Right now, you've got Prime Minister Mark Carney, the banker in Carney versus the bankrupter in Donald Trump. Carney rallying the Liberal Party right now, which was never expected to win an upcoming snap election. And now the Liberal Party is pulling ahead because the Conservative Party there was identifying with Musk, and Musk was amplifying them, and they were leaning into all the MAGA stuff, same rhetoric, the woke stuff, the Elon Musk stuff. So now in Canada, you have a real fundamental 180-degree change. And it seems, and people shouldn't get complacent, that Prime Minister Carney is pulling ahead there with the Liberal Party in Canada. You vote for the party, the leader of the party becomes your prime minister. If you take a look at what's happening in Asia, China, South Korea, Japan, joining forces. It's unthinkable. I had former ambassador to Japan, Rahm Emanuel, on, and he talked about all of the strategic work the Obama administration did and then Biden did to stand up to China, to strengthen alliances with Japan and South Korea, the trilateral agreements that were made. And now you have trilateral agreements between China, Japan, and South Korea. And then China also reaching out to South America, Central America, Mexico, Europe. And all of this is resulting in an isolation of the United States. I mean, you see what's happening in Europe. Last week, there was a big meeting where Europe furthered their coalition of the willing to help Zelensky. Zelensky was there. Europe made it clear, you, Trump and Putin, are not going to be engaged in bilateral negotiations and cut Ukraine out because we're involved now. And Ukraine won't make a deal unless we're at the table with Ukraine. Europe's got Ukraine's back. It was brilliant. French President Emmanuel Macron, Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the UK, the outgoing German Chancellor, the new German Chancellor coming in, And you see what they're doing also to kind of do mental jujitsu on Donald. Did you pick this up, Cohen? Because it's something that I'm sure you saw and you understand the psychology behind it. They sent the president of Finland, guy's in shape. The guy looks like a Calvin Klein model from like the 1990s, triathlon runner. The guy, is who Donald Trump looks in the mirror and thinks he looks like this guy, which he doesn't. So they send that guy
What
to
do you
go
mean? Trump's
to
not 215 pounds and 6'3" like Tom Brady?
And so they send that guy to golf with Donald Trump. And like, what they were saying behind the scenes too, right? They're like, just go and golf with the guy, let him win it like a fake trophy again. But when you're there with him, you got to let him know what's going on with you. You got to get in his ear. And they picked him because, by the way, he's a brilliant guy. He's actually a very good leader, but he's a good looking, in shape guy. And so I have no doubt that they picked him to appeal to Trump's vanity of, oh, look who I'm playing golf with. And then Trump took that bait and then wrote about it. Bless you. This is the world. And then, of course, Mexico standing up to Trump. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. But already, even if he doesn't do the tariffs universal 20% and he does, the damage is done. And the scary thing when we start at the outset of the show and I show these numbers about what's being predicted in quarter one. Quarter one was supposed to be still good, right? You were supposed to be riding high off the fumes or whatever you call it of the Biden administration. So the bad stuff that Trump was causing, we all thought that's maybe a Q4, maybe Q3, but that we'd at least have a good Q1, a good quarter two, Q2. But now Q1 is that this is the shocking part, that it's happening so quickly. Not that it's happening, maybe it would hit year two. It's happening now.
Yeah,
that's what I got.
Listen, of course it's happening.
That's what I got.
At some point in time, as you said, the rubber hits the road. You can't bullshit your way into a strong economy. And what were we coming off of? Like 8 consecutive quarters under the Biden administration? Exactly, elbows up. 8 consecutive quarters under the Biden administration of economic growth, lowest unemployment, highest stock market. So inflation was high, but it was creeping its way back down again. What do you think's going to happen now? What do you think's going to happen with all of these geniuses? And again, by the way, Ben, I'm telling you, we called it on this one. Howard Lutnick, my estimation, is either the first or the second to go. There's no doubt about it. All right. And I'll tell you, there is so much stupidity that is taking place in this administration that, as bad as Donald is, as bad as he is, they're even worse for him than he is for himself. And I know that may shock some people, and this isn't an April Fool's joke. As ridiculous as Trump is and what he's doing, the people that are around him and doing stupid shit makes him look not as stupid and fucked up as the things that they're doing with these executive orders. Let me give you the prime example, because this person is also the recipient of today's 2-finger salute. And I'm, of course, referring to Kristi Noem. Now, I don't know, Jeremy, if you have the photo of her there at the prison, standing in front of, a bunch of the prisoners wearing a $60,000 solid gold Rolex Daytona watch. I mean, just think about the sheer arrogance and stupidity of a move like that. Think about the fact that she's there proclaiming some sort of a gigantic win on behalf of Trump and this administration. Look at all of these people that we've jailed. Look at the hundreds and hundreds of people that we sent out of our country, yada, yada, yada. All right. And worse comes to worse. Okay, if there's a handful or a dozen people that shouldn't be in there, well, kind of like tough shit. What can I do about it? We have a bigger game that we're trying to play. Remember, all they needed to do was to create process. Okay, put them into a detention center and then do your homework to make sure that these people are part of a Trenderagua or an MS-13 or a violent gang, that they actually have some sort of criminal conviction. Do the same thing, for example, for these students or this professor that they're just pulling out of school, out of their apartments, out of wherever, for the sole purpose of shipping them out of the country based upon illegal protests. They are running amok. This is like a bad episode of The Purge, where you can just do whatever you want, bag them, tag them, throw them into the back of a Sprinter. I used to talk about this all the time. Throw them into the back of the Sprinter and then ship them off to Guantanamo Bay, ship them off to some Panamanian internment camp in the middle of the jungle, or ship them off to Venezuela, where we're paying $6 million to house them. And you're telling me we can't get these people back? I'm sorry, El Salvador. Right. So, Kristi Noem, to you for jumping the gun, for acting so reckless, for going ahead and behaving in a way that is so antithetical to America, to our values, to who we are, and to the position that we used to hold in front of the entire world. And you're not the only one, but today you are the recipient. Fuck you.
I'm going to give a two-finger salute to Josh Hawley, who goes around lecturing on masculinity and saying that the biggest threat facing people is that their masculinity is under attack, and he uses this as pretext to bully marginalized communities and to attack LGBTQ rights. And also, this was the guy with fists up during the January 6th insurrection, who was the first to run away the moment the insurrectionists arrived, and you saw him on the camera there. He's a constitutional lawyer, although he doesn't act like one. He graduated from Yale. I graduated from Georgetown Law. This guy knows what the law is. And, it's people like him also that, to me, are responsible largely for the erosion of our constitutional norms. He was asked yesterday what he thinks about Donald Trump saying that Trump said he wants to be a dictator, he wants a third term, and that Trump is, he says that he has ways to do it. Josh Hawley, for these agents of the oligarchy, they think it's all a game and that it's like cute. So you'll see Hawley in this clip, he'll be like, I think it's funny.
Ben, if you were allowed to go walking into a China store with a 9-iron and smash everything in the store simply because you wanted to, simply because there's going to be no repercussion or accountability for it, chances are down the road, one day you're going to be in a bad mood and you take the 9-iron, you go into the store and you start smashing the stuff. That's the problem with all of them. They don't understand that there are repercussions. Somewhere along the line, they all think that they are mini Donalds, that they can do whatever they want, they can say whatever they want, they could behave any way that they want, and that there will be no repercussion. And that's why, brigaders, I keep saying, make sure that you stay here. Make sure that you follow this network with all of the various different programs that's going on. Make sure that when we're ready to start getting out there and we start doing like the Midas Million Man March, and I don't mean man, I meant person, march, right? That we all elbows up and we all fight together because it's worth it. And then, and only then will they finally realize what accountability looks like.
Yeah, I want to play this last clip of Hawley though before we go, because it's the reaction, the way he behaves and the way these MAGA Republicans behave would be like, I have a 6-month-old daughter. It would almost be like, if she, dropped a toy on the floor and it broke, or, spilled a drink, or took the food and kind of threw it, like, oh, it's so. oh, or like if like your dog had like an accident or something, like, oh, you okay? You okay? Just watch this, Jeremy. I'm not going to play the whole clip, so watch for me to pull it because I can't watch the full thing, but you'll see what I mean here. Here, play this clip.
Don't you think he's probably kind of trolling?
Well, he said I'm, quote, not joking.
Well, I know, but I say that a lot too.
So we shouldn't take him seriously when he says he's not joking.
Well, I mean, the Constitution's pretty fair. I guess you could try to pass a constitutional amendment. I'm kind of a term limits fan, though. I think we ought to have him for Congress too. So my view, if he's wanting my view, I would say
limited to.
I would say let's go further. Let's get him for Congress as well. Let's sauce for the goose, let's sauce for the gander. So presidents I know are always, particularly popular presidents, always complain about that, especially when Congress,
So you're against
their sixth term.
So you're against him seeking a third term.
Well, I'm generally in favor of term limits. I think it was a good idea. Interestingly, it applied against the only president from my home state, Harry S. Truman. Was the first president to have the term limits. He didn't like them either. So presidents never like him. But
Do you think it's
kind of a term limits guy.
dangerous for him to sort of flirt with that idea?
I think.
Well, we'll leave you with that so you understand. I think my description was.
Yeah, let me just say this. I guarantee that there's not one brigader with us, yourself included there, Ben, that would let this guy watch your kids after hours.
Michael Cohen said it. I gave him the 2-finger salute.
You
gave
win.
Kristi Noem the 2-finger salute. Spin said, let's go watch some Cory Booker on the Senate floor. Continue to set the record. He'll set the record in the next hour and 30. Thank you to our pro-democracy sponsors. Discount codes are in the description. Subscribe to Michael Cohen's YouTube channel at The Michael Cohen Show. Subscribe to the Mea Culpa audio podcast as well. Subscribe to Michael Cohen's got a Substack. Midas Touch has a Substack. You can search our Substacks out. You can check that out. Cohen, Beatdown Brigaders, Midas Mighty. We're in it together. Don't get discouraged.
Let's
Keep
fight.
on fighting. Shout out
Hands
Midas
up,
Mighty.
hands
Shout
up, elbows up. Ben, I'll call you later.
Bye.
Boom.